Hey guys, today I'll show you a horror thriller film named Sumala. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The story takes place in a remote, overcast village. Two boys' football rolls into a cornfield, and they search for it until nightfall, but with no luck. Though there's no wind, the surrounding cornstalks begin to sway. A whisper cuts through the rustling sound. It's a little girl covered in bloodstains calling out their names. She holds their football, her smile twisted and unnatural. In the blink of an eye, she vanishes back into the depths of the cornfield. One of the boys is trembling with fear and smelly farts, wanting only to run home to his mother. But the other, the bolder of the two, actually chases after the girl to get his ball back. Not wanting to flee alone, the first boy grits his teeth and follows. When he reaches a large tree, he finds the other boy's head smashed to a pulp with a rock. The girl stands there, a grotesque smile on her face. His scalp tingling with terror, the boy screams in a chicken voice and runs for home. When the villagers arrive at the tree, the second boy's body is gone. He is later found in the river, bloated and swollen, his head looking like a crushed tomato. The surviving boy insists the killer was a terrifying girl, but the dead boy's family doesn't believe him. They accuse him of the murder, demanding his life in return. An old man steps forward. He is the only one who believes the boy, because he has seen the terrifying girl before. Her name is Sumala. This all began 29 years ago. Kusuma was the wealthy landowner of the village. His greedy uncle repeatedly visited, making it clear he intended to take over Kusuma's land. The land had been in the family for generations, but Kusuma had been married for over a decade and had failed to produce an heir. He could refuse his uncle for now, but after he died, the land would inevitably pass to his uncle's descendants. Kusuma's wife was a gentle and devoted woman, kneeling on the floor to massage his legs. Yet he would berate her viciously, demanding she fix her body and get pregnant soon. He threatened to take a second wife if she failed. From Kusuma's impotent rage, one might guess that he was the one who was infertile. But with her traditional mindset, the wife would never suspect her husband, blaming only her own body. While she was weeping in sorrow, she overheard servants talking about an old witch in a neighboring village, a woman of great power. Women who had been barren for years became pregnant after just one visit. Through a contact, the wife found a mysterious boatman who led her to the old witch's home. The witch explained that getting pregnant was a small matter, but she would have to conceive 2 children at once. One human child and one the daughter of a demon. She would only need to raise the demon's child for 10 years, at which point the demon would come to take its daughter back. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement. The witch warned her if the demon child was mistreated, disaster would surely follow. Desperate for a child, the wife agreed without hesitation. After drinking a bowl of thick, viscous liquid, she felt her blood begin to boil. Excruciating pain shot through her abdomen as her body convulsed, finally contorting into a bizarre posture. Her belly suddenly swelled like an inflating balloon. The witch placed a hand on her pregnant stomach, muttered 2 incantations, and it deflated. The witch then whispered to her that she would be pregnant within 2 months. Soon, the wife conceived. Seeing that his heir was on the way, Kusuma transformed into a caring and affectionate husband. The wife, not wanting to shatter this newfound happiness, decided to hide her pact with the demon. The oblivious Kusuma was overjoyed, choosing names for the children he believed were on their way, Kumala and Sumala. After a full-term pregnancy, the day of birth arrived. The wife suffered a difficult labor. Only after she glimpsed a demonic figure flash before her eyes was she able to give birth. Sadly, the older twin, Kumala, was born with a disabled leg and soon stopped breathing. The other twin, Sumala, was covered in boils, ugly and malformed. Fearing the ridicule of the villagers, Kusuma grabbed a silver sword, preparing to kill the monstrous infant. But just as the silver blade pierced Sumala's tiny body, Kumala miraculously started breathing again. Kusuma was ecstatic. He threw a great feast for the entire village, wanting the world to know his heir had been born. He was unaware that at this very moment, the curse had truly begun. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. At age 3, Kumala still couldn't speak and appeared vacant and slow. Due to her disabled leg, she was also slow to learn how to walk. Her parents, ashamed of her, kept her locked away at home, hidden from outsiders. By age 5, Kumala could finally talk and walk. She was often locked in her room, deprived of her parents' love and companionship, and learned the taste of loneliness early. She would protest with primal screams, but her father only assumed she was mentally unstable, tying her hands and feet with a coarse rope and roughly throwing her into the storeroom. At the age of 8, the poor girl's curiosity finally got the better of her, and she ran away from home for the first time. She snuck into the marketplace hoping to play with the other children, but the leader of the group mocked her for being disabled and stupid. The village women had all seen how Kusuma treated his daughter, and the story had spread. The children, feeling emboldened, began to bully her, throwing mud and stones. Her parents were hiding nearby, watching it all, but they did nothing to stop the cruelty, unwilling to share in their daughter's public humiliation. What happened next was an act of pure evil. Kusuma dragged Kumala back to the storeroom and whipped her viciously with a horsewhip, trying to teach her a lesson not to embarrass the family again. Her mother, more concerned with playing the part of a dutiful wife, would never dare to cross her husband for their daughter's sake. In this prison, only the old nanny showed Kumala any genuine love. She would gently apply ointment to her wounds and comfort her with kind words. The nanny knew that Kumala was a good and sweet child. With enough patience, she could teach her to speak and even to play the piano. The next day was Kumala's 8th birthday. The nanny gave her a carefully stitched rag doll, which finally brought a smile to the girl's face. The clock struck midnight. Someone softly called Kumala's name, waking her. She looked towards the wardrobe, and its door creaked open. A girl with deathly pale skin slowly stepped out. Looking closely, Kumala saw that the girl looked just like her. The girl gave a stiff smile and elegantly introduced herself. It was then that Kumala learned she had a twin sister. Suddenly, Sumala's eyes flashed with malice. She roared that their parents had murdered her simply because of her appearance and that she would make them pay the price. Seeing Kumala tremble with fear, Sumala's grotesque smile returned. She spoke in a soothing voice, cautiously approaching her sister. As the two embraced, Sumala promised to protect her and be her closest friend. Kumala was moved by this moment of connection and smiled with true happiness. Kusuma's disgust for his disabled daughter grew stronger. One evening, just after sunset, he became annoyed by the sound of her piano playing. He stormed in and slapped her hard across the face. The blatant humiliation ignited a firestorm of rage within Kumala. She silently opened the door to his study. As her father stared in astonishment, she twisted her disabled limbs back into place, then swiftly grabbed a fountain pen and stabbed it through his hand. Afterwards, her father tied her to a post in the pouring rain, forbidding her from eating or drinking. Her mother simply glared and blamed her. The anger and injustice in Kumala's heart festered, and her behavior grew more and more bizarre. One day, during dinner, she suddenly climbed onto the dining table and urinated as if no one was there. Her father yelled for a servant to bring a rope, intending to tie her up in the storeroom again. But she suddenly possessed immense strength, easily overpowering the male servant, who was helpless against her. Her mother happened to glance at a nearby mirror and saw a hideous demon clinging to Kumala's back. She didn't recognize it as her dead daughter, Sumala. A moment later, Kumala was hiding in the chicken coop, a look of pure ecstasy on her face as she bit into a live chicken. The nanny, deeply worried about Kumala, quietly asked her why she was doing these terrible things. Kumala quickly explained that it wasn't her. At night, Sumala would possess her and control her body. Her mother was hiding outside the door and overheard everything. She rushed to find the boatman, hoping to get help from the witch in the neighboring village, but was told that the old woman had passed away last month. For the next 2 years, Kumala was locked in the storeroom every night and locked in her room during the day. One day, some children came to her window and asked her to play. She was overjoyed and managed to break the lock on her door, but when she limped out to meet them, the leader of the group sneered and smeared mud all over her pale face. Everyone laughed while she cried. They hurled insults at her, using her to feel superior, as if pushing her into the dirt would elevate them. They picked up more rocks and mud, throwing them at her head and body. Thankfully, the nanny arrived just in time to stop them, or the consequences could have been far worse. This time, Kumala saw her parents standing nearby, watching with cold indifference, and her heart turned to ice. That night, Kumala and her demon sister became one. They found one of the boys who had bullied her and slit his skin open, pulling out his spine as one might devein a shrimp. The boy who was killed by a rock was lucky. The others suffered a slow death by 1,000 cuts, their hearts pierced only after they had reached the peak of agony. After several bizarre deaths, a wave of fear swept through the village. No one dared to go out after dark. A few nights later, Kumala appeared with a ball, inviting the children to play. The leader tried to bully her again and was instantly silenced with a slash to the throat. The rest were dealt with in moments. The next day, a small body was recovered from the well, the only one found intact. The other children's heads had been severed and impaled on sticks in the fields like candied fruit skewers. Next to the decapitated heads, the villagers found Kumala's rag doll. They immediately marched to Kusuma's house, demanding an explanation. Kusuma refused to believe his daughter was a murderer, arguing that she was locked in the storeroom every night and had an alibi. After sending the villagers away, Kusuma went to the storeroom himself and found a large hole broken through the wall. It seemed Kumala was indeed the killer. Seeing that the truth was out, the wife finally confessed to her husband that the spirit of their dead daughter, Sumala, had returned, though she left out the part about her deal with the demon. Kusuma went to his daughter and for the first time spoke to her calmly and gently. He asked if the boys had been killed by Sumala. Kumala nodded, explaining that her dead sister was taking revenge for her. She would kill everyone who had ever bullied her. Kusuma was horrified, realizing that he and his wife were the ones who had bullied Kumala the most. He decided to find a sorcerer for help. Before leaving, he instructed the servant to put Kumala in leg shackles. The twisted servant smiled lecherously. He relished any chance to abuse the little girl under the master's orders. Kumala could only weep in despair, not knowing what she had done to deserve such treatment from her own father. Thankfully, the nanny stayed by her side, the only warmth in her tormented life. Tomorrow was her 10th birthday, and the nanny always had a gift for her. This was the first time Kumala had ever asked the nanny for something. She begged the nanny to leave as quickly as possible. She could sense that something terrible would happen after midnight, and she didn't want the person she loved most to be harmed. The nanny understood most of what was happening. She couldn't bear to leave Kumala, but she was powerless to help. She had no choice but to obey, taking her son and leaving the village. Meanwhile, Kusuma arrived at the sorcerer's home and learned that his wife had made a pact with a demon to conceive, and that he himself had killed the demon's daughter. The 10-year pact was almost up. The demon child was about to take her revenge. He had to bring Kumala to the sorcerer immediately. The exorcist gave him a silver sword, explaining that Sumala feared the sacred weapon and that it could be used to ward her off. But he had to be quick. Once midnight struck, Sumala and Kumala would merge into one. At that point, the only way to kill the demon would be to pierce his daughter's heart. Night fell quickly. Sumala gained control of the body and immediately went after the servant. He managed to escape into a house and was just breathing a sigh of relief when a cleaver smashed through the thick wooden door. Within moments, a hole was large enough for him to see Sumala's eerie, smiling face. He turned and ran for his shitty life, quickly putting distance between them. Just as he thought he was safe, a thrown cleaver embedded itself in his back, leaving him half dead. The night was long, and Sumala planned to torture him slowly, just as he had tortured her sister. Next on the list was her mother. At first, she thought it was Kumala holding the knife and prepared to stop her, but a glance in the mirror revealed Sumala's hand guiding her sister's. Terrified, she backed away, stumbling over the servant's corpse. The sticky blood amplified her fear. She fled into the bedroom, but Sumala easily smashed the door down. She planned to play a game of carving with her human mother. The sharp blade sliced into her calf, splitting it open like a deboned chicken foot. The mother begged for mercy, her voice trembling with pain, appealing to their mother-daughter bond to spare her. Sumala, of course, was immune to such moral appeals. She had been stabbed to death moments after birth, and while her mother hadn't delivered the killing blow, her cold indifference made her equally guilty. On top of that, she had abused Kumala. 1,000 deaths would not be enough. At the mention of Kumala, the mother was overcome with shame. She begged to see Kumala just one last time to offer a sincere apology. The kind-hearted Kumala appeared, tearfully forgiving her mother, but Sumala would not. With one swing, she chopped off the mother's hand. By the time Kusuma sped home, his wife was a mutilated corpse. He wept and repented, crying that it was all his fault. His daughter and Sumala appeared together, and the sight made him collapse in fear. Sumala noticed the sword in his hand and was clearly afraid of it. His daughter trembled and begged her father for help, but he was too terrified to move. Sumala immediately forced Kumala's mouth open and dissolved into a cloud of ash, pouring herself inside. As his daughter convulsed on the floor, Kusuma scrambled to his feet and fled into the village, pleading with the villagers for help. When they heard his wife had been brutally murdered, they agreed to help. One group went to his house to retrieve the body, while the rest went to capture the demon-possessed Kumala. Looking at the angry mob, Kusuma realized he had condemned his own daughter. The village children had just been killed. If Kumala fell into their hands, she would be torn apart. A sudden pang of conscience struck him, and he decided to finally act like a father. He He grabbed a sack and a rope, planning to capture the possessed Kumala and take her to the sorcerer for help. Just then, the demon child appeared in the distance, luring Kusuma into the cornfield. The cornstalks shook violently, and ghostly figures flickered all around him. While he was disoriented, the demon child leaped onto his back and easily snatched the knife from his hand. He grabbed the sword and fought back, striking her on the head again and again until she fell unconscious. He wanted to end it all with one fatal blow, but this was still his daughter's body. They had spent 10 years together after all, and he couldn't bring himself to do it. After putting her in the sack, waves of guilt and remorse washed over him, and he couldn't stop the tears from falling. The demon in the sack could read his mind. She spoke of his childhood as a cripple, how he too had been scorned by his parents before he eventually healed. She told him he wasn't a bad person, just someone who couldn't face his own past, which is why he had abused a disabled child. She assured him that Kumala was safe now and would surely forgive him. Hearing this, Kusuma broke down and sobbed like an old baby. When he came to his senses, the sack was empty. The demon child had been toying with him, buying time. He untied the sack and looked around for her when a sharp pain shot through his leg. A deep gash had been cut into it, and he was a cripple once more. He could only crawl on the ground, dragging himself to safety. The demon child attacked again, but was blocked by a wooden crate. Kusuma seized the knife and knocked her unconscious with the hilt. He then painfully crawled towards the silver sword and thrust it into her heart. He was relieved to have survived, but heartbroken that his daughter had died along with the demon. Just then, Sumala's eyes snapped open. Midnight had long passed. Sumala had taken complete control of Kumala's body. Kumala's heart was on the left, but Sumala's heart was on the right. She grabbed several knives and plunged them into Kusuma, one after another. His heart-wrenching screams echoed through the dark night. The villagers didn't find Kusuma's body until dawn. His eyes, ears, and mouth were all pierced with knives, and he was tied to the very same post where Kumala had been punished. It was a terrifying sight. When the nanny heard what had happened to her former masters, she returned to the village with her son to arrange their funerals. And the man telling this story is none other than the nanny's son. He believes Sumala never left. As soon as night falls, she roams the forest and the cornfields. That is why he warns the villagers never to go out after dark. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.